Our next house takes us to Phoenix, Arizona, where the sun shines more than 300 days a year. When architect Matthew Trzebiatowski set out to build his family home, he took the arid climate into account and used his desert location to its full effect.
About this idea of how does one live in a desert. I mean, we call this the Xeros residence. I mean, this Greek word meaning dry, to be mindful of the place where it's located.
Matthew was building a house with a dual purpose. In addition to a home, he needed an office. So he tapped into his creativity and not only created a place to work in, but a place that would work for him as well.
This sort of house was part of a desire to start my studio, to discover what I had inside of me as a design aesthetic. It was something I'd been working up for several years, and this was my opportunity to test it. The big idea is to separate work and life. I mean, the lower level is all about work, and then there's the residential level in which you live above, and you're sort of above it all, and you get the grander view. In the main living space, you're seeing this sort of the main public room. The proportion is a bit higher, and the proportion will get smaller as you move through it. But this is the kitchen, living, dining, the main gathering space. As you move back through the space, you're sort of confronted with the lavatory and the private bath, and moving along the gallery gets you into the sleeping spaces toward the back. That's where the big view is to our north.
And when it came to choosing building materials, Matthew had only one in mind.
One of the initial impressions of what I was trying to do with this project is, how can I utilize one material that can do almost everything for me? And steel is one of those things that can do it. Its structure, its steel.
It was important to Matthew to personally create some of the key elements of the house. So with the help of his contractors, he was able to roll the steel for the staircase himself.
So we calculated what the angle of the insert would need to be. We took it to this industrial press form roller here in Phoenix, and this thing rolled through about 3 or 4 times to get to the desired shape. Comes rolling out, goes in flat at an angle, comes out like a piece of pasta.
But the installation of such a huge item took a little more effort.
It was corkscrewed in through the wall. There were 4 gentlemen inside, 4 outside, and this thing was corkscrewed into the space, set onto a pin which was cast in the floor and then welded against the top of the mezzanine. So I think it weighs about 2,800 pounds. So it's a hefty piece of equipment. But
And Matthew got creative upstairs as well, installing one of the most colorful emergency exits around.
Every sleeping space by law here needs to have an operable window for a means of emergency egress. So we developed this as part of the composition, where you just slide that door open and that balcony serves that purpose. And it also sort of serves as this compositional endpoint to the journey that you've just taken, from ground up to the top of this.
On the west side of the house, where the sun shines strongest, Matthew created another custom detail, this time in the bathroom.
In the late afternoon, the idea of sort of projecting blue light through the space is at least psychologically cooling, if not literally. The idea was that when you go to wash your hands, you walk to the edge of the house. You're surrounded in this vitrine of blue glass, and you can see a 180-degree view all around. And at night with the city lights, it's really quite fetching.
Besides this 20-foot-tall grand entrance, this 2-story house has another special feature. It's really a 3-story house.
Our building codes here say you're allowed to have 2 stories and you're allowed to go 30 feet tall, and that's all. Now, what we did was basically take our lower level, dig it down just to the right depth to say, okay, now technically that lowest level is considered a basement. And my first floor is the mezzanine level, and now my upper floor, my second floor, is my home. Instead of 2 stories and 30 feet, I got a 3-story space out of it. So it's about finding the intent of the law and trying to push it as much as you can to get the best benefit out of it.
And getting the best benefit out of your home are words to live by for Matthew and his family.
And I've always had the opinion that life is simply too short to not live in great architecture. And I'll never do it again. I'll always live in spaces that I've made for myself. And that's what makes it worthwhile.